Every family has a choice, follow the herd or carve their own path. This is the Lone Wolf Podcast. Are you ready to stray from the pack?
Welcome to the Lone Wolf Podcast. Hello!
Welcome to Lone Wolf Podcast, Regina.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, I know you very well, but for our listeners who don't know who you are, give us a little bit of a background and don't keep it simple, okay? I love the details. Give us a little bit of a background on who you are and how you've kind of arrived to where you are now.
Okay. So I am originally from Switzerland, so you might hear my accent. So it's a little bit the Swiss German that comes through. I came here 20 years ago. I grew up in a very holistic family, traditional family. Like we played outside. We never had TVs. My mom was always cooking and taking care of the family. And I'm a synchronized swimmer, so I was doing sports. So I was also very competitive. Went to the World Championships. I was in the national team. And then I had a dream to come to Cirque du Soleil here in Las Vegas, and that's how I came here. That's almost 20 years ago, so 19 years ago, the dream came true, and I thought like I will come for like maybe a year or 3 years, just something, it's my passion. You don't think you can actually make a living for a very long time. Maybe your body's not has that stamina for so long, but then 1 year passed, 3 years passed, 5 years passed, and I started settling. And
you marry a local. That's where it all goes wrong,
right?
Yep.
I started having cats first, and then I got a home, and then I met my husband.
Cats are the gateway drug to to settling down.
Yeah, it's just so funny. It's like, okay, now I have cats.
Yeah, you're like, I can't leave now.
Yep. Right. And then now we have a little precious daughter. She's already 7, as you know.
Yeah,
her name is the same as yours.
Yeah, that's how we bonded initially. Is Regina's daughter's name is Morgan, so is mine. So we knew it was fate.
Absolutely. And so let's go.
Were you born at home?
No.
Okay,
but the doctor didn't make it.
Oh, so
that's fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so when I was working here, I had much more time during the day, and I could like really dig in, like do inner work. I did a lot of like conferences online, like Institute for Integrated Nutrition. Maybe my background back in Switzerland, I became a movement therapist or movement teacher. It's different wording. It's Bewegungspädagogin. You know how long the words can be, like 3 lines. Yeah. And so body work was always very important to me, having the body awareness, body mind, how everything is connected. And so then, I would say when I was here, I had a lot of time to do like inner work and looking into the holistic part of life. And so once I did integrative nutrition, there was an expert speaker who was talking about microbiome and how that is so important during birth. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I want to become a midwife. And so that's how I was digging in and got into the birth work.
Was this before having Morgan?
Yeah, way long. That was maybe in 2014. My daughter was born in 2018.
Okay. I think that's something cool that you and I have in common is we both kind of got that calling placed on our heart before we had our own personal experiences of having babies of our own.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then I had one of my good friend of mine. She asked me to be at her birth, and I didn't really know what a doula is. And so I accompanied her. It was one of the last water birth here in Las Vegas. She had
in the hospital. Oh, interesting.
Unmedicated birth in a hospital. The doctor doesn't live anymore, but it was very holistic, I would say, for an OBGYN.
In like an actual like tub?
Yeah. Someone in hospital.
How many years ago was that?
13 years.
Wow. I didn't even know that it was like, I know that they have the tubs, right?
Not anymore.
Some there's one hospital at least who has them.
Centennial.
And don't they market it as like these beautiful birth tubs and whatever,
to
but
labor in.
but like
I have a lot of clients going to Centennial. I love it because it's the lowest in a C-section rate here in town.
But I imagine that faucet doesn't even get turned on.
No, either they have not enough staffs. You know,
there's always an excuse.
Or it doesn't work. There's something broken.
Of course.
Something.
Yep.
I've never seen it.
Yep.
That it worked, unfortunately.
So she had this unmedicated water birth in the hospital. Was that the first birth that you had seen?
Right.
Okay.
And so
what were you feeling?
Oh, so empowered. It was just, I was so honored to witness the beauty of what we're capable to do. And
what can I know I want to hear your story. I'm going to pause you for a second because I want to know, before that moment, what was your idea of birth? Like as a little girl, what was, the language around birth? What did you go into that space kind of expecting that birth to look like or feel like?
I always felt that's something normal. We're meant to give birth, that we're capable to give birth. There's an innate trust that I always had that we know how to give birth. So I never had a lot of fear around birth. It might be a little bit, bliss is, what is it called?
Ignorance
is bliss. Absolutely. The more you know, sometimes you don't know and you get a little bit more scared.
Yeah.
But I had really that innate trust to know that.
What is birth like in Switzerland?
So we have that midwifery care integrated in the medical setting in hospitals.
Right.
I would say, though, the midwives have been bullied like everywhere. So they have become way more medicalized, like the thinking that happened with the medical model. But what I still really like is that I have that postpartum care. So if you give birth in a hospital with the midwife, at the very end, maybe the doctor comes in. And then when you go home, you still have a midwife coming to your house for the postpartum care.
Wow.
So that nurturing is really still there. And I would say maybe postpartum, I don't know the statistics, but I have a feeling they're doing better.
I'm sure.
Postpartum.
I would imagine.
C-section rates are the same as the US.
They are?
30s. I would say interventions are really big.
Okay.
Unfortunately. But I think because they got bullied into that medical thinking.
Yeah, they become almost too integrated into that medical system. Are they the primary attendants of births? Midwives?
That's what I've been told.
Are they CNMs? Is the licensing like the same in other countries?
So we don't have, if I'm not mistaken, we don't have CPMs, which is a certified professional midwife. So they have CNMs, certified nurse midwives. They have to go through the medical school.
Yeah, that are nurse practitioners. Well, and I'll say, as somebody who, I went to midwifery school for a semester, but it was actually, it really disappointed me because it was very medicalized. There was a lot, and I understand, they're trying to create midwives that could then kind of assimilate into any type of role. And if you don't have the highest level of this medical training, then you wouldn't be able, to take that type of a role in a hospital if that's what you were to choose. But it was disappointing. I guess, I don't know, you just think that it's going to be this certain kind of experience, and it's not what I experienced at all. So it makes sense, I guess, that you're seeing that in Switzerland with these midwives. Right.
I mean, they still understand the physiological process more, but still I feel like they took over that medical model. Yeah. Unfortunately, like that managing, right? We want to manage it. We want to still probably have that feeling that birth is still something normal. It's physiological, but still that, how it is so difficult to unlearn when you know too much and think something can go wrong. Yes. But
I completely agree that like unlearning, once you know, it's exactly what you're saying, that ignorance is bliss. Once you know too much, you can't really turn that part of your brain off. And then it kind of skews this lens that you view birth through, even if you do have that innate feeling that it's normal, right? Can you explain to anybody who's listening to us going back and forth where they're like, what the frick are these ladies talking about? What is a doula? What is a midwife?
Yes. Okay. So a doula is someone who accompanies families, a mother who in her perinatal time, which means during pregnancy, for labor and postpartum, for all the phases of childbirth. And we are not non-medical, do not clinical tasks. However, but we are here for emotional support, physical support, helping the family to gather information so that they can make informed decision, knowing what informed consent means, what the long-term, short-term risks are. Sometimes it can be extremely overwhelming when you go into a care provider's office and they tell you like, well, your baby is too small, we need to this and this intervention, and then knowing what questions you can ask and guide them through this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I like that you mention as well the prenatal part, because I think people who often doula and midwife get confused. I've seen that so much. Like, we both work in the natural birth community. I still hear dads where like they've gone to every single midwifery prenatal with their wife. They know they're having a home birth, whatever, and they'll still have no idea what a doula or a midwife is. You know, like still have it very confused. They get intermixed often. So I think that non-medical component is important. But then also I think what's cool is when you hear the term like birth doula, you think of this like, what's the, not an attendee, I guess like you think of like a partner in birth, but your doulas are doing so much more than just that moment of birth itself. There's so much groundwork that you cover and deep work that you do with your clients prenatally to prep them and partners, right, to then go into the birth space with confidence, and hopefully have a good experience. I know we have a lot of statistics out there on how much birth rates are improved when you have a doula in attendance.
Absolutely.
And the postpartum piece as well. Now, what about a midwife? What makes a midwife different from a doula?
So a midwife is someone, it's a care provider. It's someone who is trained in medical and clinical tasks and really does like, what does that mean? Clinical and medical tasks. They do cervical checks. They do
fetal heart tones,
vital checks. That's something I do not do. I'm not doing any cervical checks. That needs to be very clear communicated. I've been asked before when I started as a doula. I was like, okay, I'll probably have to explain first again what I do and what I don't do. Like so it's really clear. They're, to me, they're really the top notch care providers that we can have in the maternity. Because if you look at certified professional midwives, they are trained how to help the mother and also the infant. Where do you have that? As CNMs, they are really focusing on the mother. And once the baby is out, usually there's a whole staff in a hospital setting where you're like, okay, take over the nursery. And when we have seen it so often, right, in home birth setting. So you have a CPM, they know what to do to resuscitate a baby, an infant, and being calm and have that understanding of the physiology, the nervous system. I think that's the most important part, even as a doula, to hold that space, right? Like to really downregulate the nervous system in that birth space, because if that is upregulated, it can cause chaos and the mom is not in that physiological process and the body says, I'm not feeling safe anymore. Let's stop opening up or something. And so the midwives have that understanding, where I would say the OBGYNs are more trained, they're top notch if something goes wrong. I would say they're really for emergency risk management. But if something goes wrong, they're top notch. They're surgeons, right? Compared to the midwives. Midwives are not surgeons.
Right. Well, and midwives are experts in normal physiological birth. And majority of women who are giving birth are healthy women having healthy babies, right? Of course, there's a percentage of women where, like you're saying, they may be better suited to go to these more highly trained, to go to the doctors who are experts in more complex medical cases, right? But a midwife is an expert in normal. And that's what you want, especially if you're a woman who's thinking you want to have a natural birth. You don't go to the trained surgeon and hope that you're going to have a natural birth, right? Like that doesn't make a ton of sense.
And they understand the variation of normal. If like they can really sit on their hands
Mm.
and allow birth to unfold, because that's when you look at animals, at the end of the day, we're mammals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how birth is safest, when you let them be. And that's exactly like the same for us. If we don't feel safe, what do you think? Your bodies
Yep.
are like, oh, I'm
Yep.
stopping. I've seen once on YouTube a giraffe that was giving birth to a calf,
Mm-hmm.
and then a lion came.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would happen?
Suck it back up.
Suck back. Yeah,
Yep.
you can be fully complete, like dilated,
Yep.
10 centimeters, and all of a sudden you're like a 4.
Yeah.
And pull it back. Kittens do the same. They can
Mm.
stop after 2 giving birth to 2, and then,
Yeah.
I mean, cats, and then,
Right.
you know.
You know, something as well that I was thinking is we have a mutual friend in the birth space, and I think I had just gotten out of nursing school, and I thought I wanted to be like a labor and delivery nurse in the hospital until I saw it in clinicals, and I was like, no, thank you. But me and this friend of ours, we were talking about it, and she's like, I don't think any, at least very few, like birth professionals in the hospital setting have ever seen a normal, physiological, untouched birth happen. And I'm like, wow.
I've seen that. Like, I've seen nurses telling me when I have clients who really want to have a physiological, unmedicated hospital birth,
Mm-hmm.
like they look at them as unicorns. Like, I've been here for 15 years and I've never seen an unmet. I'm like, oh my God. And I come from the opposite, right?
Oh,
I was so
right.
privileged that I have seen, I would say the first 40 births were all home births,
Wow.
or even my first hospital birth, but it was unmedicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for me, I get really that deep, that's normal, that's
Yep.
a variation of normal.
Mm-hmm.
I had like the amazing midwives around me that really trust birth and
Mm-hmm.
know like that's how birth unfolds.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the more we intervene, the more we might mess with nature
Uh-huh.
and the process.
Mm-hmm.
And really that confidence that we really have taken away from women, that we think we can actually birth, is
Yeah.
a big part of like where we at with the outcomes.
Why do you think that's happened? Why do you think that there's been this big shift from, we used to, you know, give birth just in our homes with our community. Midwives used to be, you know, the primary birth attendants. What happened, and why do you think that there's been this big shift to where we are today?
I think when everything got industrialized, we started or they did a really good job to think that our body's broken. We have a broken body, and that is so ingrained that we feel our female body is not capable to do things.
Yeah.
And we have, think about Hollywood movies, if what you see, and that's how beliefs come, and it's not necessarily the truth, right? When you see like, oh my God, water break, you go in a hospital, legs in a,
and she's screaming
lithotomy and screaming, and oh my God, it's scared, and we need to manage you.
Yep.
Because you're broken. So I think we did a very good job in women to think their body's broken, and that's where we have to heal. And I think that's part of a doula work as well, where you can really work through this, do that inner work with the clients.
Yeah.
And I always say, you are pregnant for 9 months. That's a good thing. You can actually prepare for 9 months, right?
Yeah.
If you reach out at 36 weeks, I'm like, okay, we still can do things, but
it's crunch time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true. It all makes me feel sad when you say that, because I've felt those feelings myself as a woman in the modern world. I've seen many of my friends and colleagues experience those same feelings, and it's really heartbreaking because we are not broken, but we live in this world where these systems want to take that away from us. They want to make sure that we're as disconnected as can be, because then we become a consumer. We become somebody who needs to depend on everyone else to deliver our baby, to feed our baby, to raise our baby, to make our baby sleep. Like, I mean, there's just, they saw opportunity to create customers out of mothers, and it's heartbreaking.
And the language has changed, as you just said, delivery, right? As Rebecca Decker says it so beautifully, like babies are not delivered like pizzas, they're born. And think about like when you see moms talking among each other. It's like, well, who's delivering your baby?
Mm.
Who's actually delivering your baby?
Mhm.
Well, I deliver my baby,
Right.
not the doctor. I birth. And that's where it starts, like, because words are so powerful. That's
Mhm.
where you plant that seed in your head. If you say, like, well, yeah, someone will deliver my baby.
Right.
No, actually, you take that responsibility. You have that ownership, and that
Mhm.
will end up for you to be empowered versus actually taking something away from you. And
Right.
we steal that experience, that transitioning to motherhood that is so important. Like,
Mm.
yes, birth is hard work, we
Mhm.
know, but you also create a life.
Right.
And it's temporary, but it's also like you can do hard things, and it doesn't have to be just like a snap and baby's out, and you will transform, you transition as well. You not only give birth to your baby, you birth yourself from a maiden to a mother.
Mm.
It can be the first time, the second time, every
The 10th
birth.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like every time there's a transitioning. And I think, like, with the medical model, we have no patience anymore. The
Mhm.
failure to progress, right?
Yeah.
If you don't dilate every time, let's go in, we have to see how much you dilated.
Mm.
You interrupt that flow, that safety, right?
Mhm.
And I think that is the beautiful part, again, with midwifery care, like allowing that time to happen. Maybe, yes, you
Mhm.
might be 9 centimeters for 15 hours, but
Yep.
maybe you need that time to transition from a maiden to a mother,
Mm.
because it is spiritual. It is
Yeah.
full body mind.
Yeah.
And you have to go somewhere deep.
Yeah.
And you will, like, old wounds might come up, and you have to work through
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes it's
Absolutely.
just that time that you need. If baby is doing good and you're doing good and everyone is kind of like holding that energy,
Mhm.
that's what it is.
And the way that you then can show up as a mother and for your baby and for your family when you are given that space and that transition is honored, I think, I don't know, is something to take note of. Do you believe that? Have you seen that in your
Absolutely.
own? How many families do you think you've supported now?
Oh,
You're in the hundreds.
yeah, I did probably 160.
Okay.
And then maybe another 40 or 50 for, like, as a birth assistant.
Okay.
But
Okay.
mostly,
Probably in the 200s.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that because you get to, like we've said, as the doula, you get to meet these families prenatally, sometimes as early as, like, myself, which, if anybody doesn't know, Regina was the doula for Zeppelin's birth. And I texted her, I think, when we did our embryo transfer, and I was like, hey, so this would be our due date. I'm booking you right now. You're not allowed to book anybody else. But when you get to see these mothers prenatally through the entire labor and birth, the immediate postpartum, as well as some, weeks, sometimes even months later postpartum, when you think of birth as being this, like, rite of passage into motherhood, have you noticed a difference in the mothers where they kind of got victimized by the cascade of interventions and the medical model and their experience in that postpartum period versus the moms that got that kind of honored, hands off, respected,
Seen,
heard,
Mm-hmm.
space to birth their baby? Have you noticed a difference in them?
Absolutely.
Can you touch on
Yes.
that?
So I do feel like birth matters. It
Mhm.
matters how we come to the world. I feel babies, when they have, when you honor them, when they come, and they can come to mom right away on a chest,
Mhm.
you see the mom has arrived, the baby has arrived.
Mm.
Like, they cannot imagine anymore without their babies. Like, they
Mhm.
really feel like, oh my God, they did that leap over to motherhood.
Mm.
And understanding how physiology works, you do see they are thriving. There's less of, like, postpartum depression.
Mhm.
As you know, as a lactation consultant, you know that breastfeeding will be more successful. You more in that intuition because you already had, everyone allowed you to do what your intuition says. Whereas
Mhm.
when people want to manage you, something was taken away from you, and now you're on the other side,
Mm.
and there's a gap, and that needs to heal.
Mm.
And I do feel like it takes those mothers sometimes a little bit longer to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Think about birth, like you open up completely, literally, like your cervix is opening up, but you are very vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
to actually take your child, like
Yeah.
to bond with your child. And that is such a vulnerable part during postpartum. And if you are managed and misunderstood,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard.
Yeah.
You get hurt
Yeah.
emotionally and physically.
I think you worded that really, really well. I really like the way that you said something gets taken away from you and that there's this void, and you can see it in those women, and they have to have extra space to kind of heal that part of them, or to kind of pick up the pieces that were, missing. And sometimes it's not even in my case, it's not even till the next child. Like,
Right.
that's where then you can have like redemptive births, right? Like,
Right.
I didn't necessarily have trauma in my birth, but there were many things that were different in my life with my first baby than having my second. And I fully experienced what it felt like to have this side of the spectrum experience, to then having my redemptive birth where like nobody touched me, nobody intervened, nobody questioned me. I just felt in full control of what my body and my baby could do together. And it truly just felt like we were just in this beautiful, sacred, otherworldly space together, just me and her, just doing our work. And there was
Gives me
never,
goosebumps.
yeah,
It was so beautiful.
there was just never a point where I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. Somebody need, I did ask for the midwife to come, but that's just because
You knew.
I
knew.
knew, and I love her, and I wanted her in my space, and I knew that she was a part of the tribe around my baby and the entrance,
But it was maybe 20 minutes before she was born.
Yes.
Think about it. It was like you felt that,
Yep. It's time for her to be here.
Right.
Yep. Let's call her.
Right.
Call the midwife.
Yeah.
Yes. From the conception of our species, women have been nourished by wild foods, medicinal plants, and the entire animal nose to tail. And that's exactly what Birthright brings back to life. These supplements are made from real food ingredients like grass-fed liver, bone marrow, and fish eggs, paired with powerful herbs that support every stage of womanhood. I'm currently taking Revive to prepare my body for conception after going through infertility and IVF. Truly never felt so aligned with the supplement. It's not synthetic or filler packed, it's ancestral nutrition in a capsule form. Whether you're rebuilding your health before pregnancy or searching for a prenatal you can trust, Birthright offers a collection of whole food blends designed to honor your hormones, fertility, and vitality, the way that nature intended it. Reclaim your health through nourishment that's wild, wise, and time-tested. Use code LONEWOLF for 15% off at birthright.co. That's LONE, WOLFE, for 15% off your first order at Birthright Supplements. Because optimal health, fertility, and wholeness is your birthright. It's funny because the term rite of passage used to really bother me.
Really?
Yes. So when I did my doula training, so I am now a quote retired doula. When I did my doula training in 2016, that term birth is a rite of passage was said in the training. And I remember feeling bothered by it. I think it almost made me feel like, well, I haven't given birth. So then do I not have a right to like, you know what I mean? I felt very like defensive with the term. And then I started to feel like, I don't know, I'm trying to like unpack the feeling, think of the right words to explain it. It just felt like, I don't know, the moment of birth can't be something that, embodies that much power. And then once I actually started seeing births that were untouched and unmanaged, I started to really understand it. And it's exactly kind of what you're saying, where it's the space where mom needs to unpack certain things and feel certain things and move through certain things in that dance of labor as she makes that transition, this leap from maiden to mother.
Right.
Is profound. I cannot agree anymore now with the saying, I guess, that birth is a rite of passage.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I want to go back to something we were speaking on a little earlier because it made me think of this post. What is her account name? Claire Fagan? I could be mispronouncing it. I shared it with Sarah, and she loves this account too. She just has a really, really beautiful way of wording things. Like, she takes everything that I think and feel and puts it into like words. And so there was this one specifically that I want to read.
I would love to hear.
I'm curious if maybe you've seen it before, but I actually reshared this one onto my page, and I don't do that very often because I just thought it was so exactly the way that I think about the concept of pain in childbirth. Okay, so I'm going to read it. And again, this is Claire Fagin, Fagin. So this is not mine. I'm not taking credit for these words. So it says, the discomfort of pregnancy prepares us for the discomfort of birth, and the discomfort of birth prepares us for the discomfort of motherhood. As a society, we're so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. We desperately try to bypass discomfort, and we measure our success by how well we are able to do so. I see this happening in both medicated and unmedicated birth spheres. Whether you plan, medicate, or meditate yourself into a pain-free birth, we are making the avoidance of pain the goal. By making the avoidance of pain the goal, we are missing the point. The point is the pain. The point is allowing it to be there for all that it is. The point is to let discomfort be your teacher, to let it work you, to allow it to move you. Pregnancy requires us to stretch. Birth requires us to shatter. Postpartum requires us to sort through the pieces and rebuild. It is uncomfortable for a reason. This discomfort is where the growth happens. It's part of the perfect design. When we think we can't be any more pregnant, our babies decide to wait a few more weeks, which was me, and we continue on. When we think we can't handle another contraction comes anyway, and we breathe through it. When we think we can't be any more tired, our babies call out for us. It's literally going to make me cry. I'm like getting goosebumps reading it. And we answer their call. When we think we've reached capacity, our capacity expands. As you move through pregnancy, dream about birth and prepare for postpartum, plan for discomfort. The discomfort is where the transformation takes place. The pain is where we meet our truest selves. Let it crack you open.
Beautifully said.
Goosebumps.
Oh my God, me too.
I'm like crying reading it.
Me too.
When did I share this? I shared this November 11th, 2024. Because I was thinking maybe I saw it before I gave birth, but I guess I just connected with it so much because the discomfort we live in this world, right? Where like if you have a headache, take ibuprofen. Oh, if you had a long day at work, better drink booze or pour a glass of wine so you can manage your children. Mommy needs her glass. You know what I like? We just have so many things in place because we're so afraid of feeling discomfort.
Absolutely.
And birth is the perfect opportunity to like fully surrender to it and let it crack you open. And the person that you become on the other side of it is profound.
It's brilliantly said. And I really do sometimes that inner work with my clients as well, too, when they're scared of the pain, like they're afraid of it. And we did a really good job to use the word pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it will be uncomfortable.
Yep.
I will tell them it's going to be uncomfortable. And often, like not often, but I've had mothers telling me, well, I just don't feel a comfortable position in early labor. And we know it. Early labor can be days, long time. And so they're much in the prefrontal cortex, overthinking. What is that? That's when you are critical, analyzing. That's where anxiety comes in. But birth is when you go in that limbic part of the brain where you have most access to intuition. That's why you want to go on that flow. That's where whoever is invited to your birth space needs to guard that and buffer that, because distraction or lack of confidence will put you right back there. And so pain, I also try to work with my clients, like, what is pain for you? Exactly what you're saying. Oh, I have a headache. Oh my God, I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to feel it, right? The feeling is scary. And look into it. Like, what are you doing if you have a headache? Could you just say, oh, maybe I should drink a little bit more water, right? Or maybe movement. Sometimes it's just moving. You were sitting for a long time.
Fresh
or just
air.
Sitting in that uncomfortableness, right? I have like, let's say I have a back pain. Well, it's a little bit achy. Maybe I should move. But no, it's just uncomfortable. And I'm sitting with that feeling, and it's okay. And then pain to me is what is your association with pain? Is it with suffer? Something is wrong, something is broken,
Anxiety.
right? Or is it the feedback of your body?
Mm-hmm.
And so word is so powerful, as it was so beautifully said, uncomfortable. I would say birth needs to have that intensity. Intensity will bring the baby down.
Mm-hmm.
We want that. So maybe change the wording from pain to intensity, because intensity will bring that purpose. It has a purpose. The more you feel, the more baby actually moves through it. And so you create more new pathways. The more you wire, the more you fire. And that starts early on. If you feel like, oh, I need to do some work, like the day before baby's coming, and he's like, oh, but I'm so scared of pain. Everyone tells me about pain. And what am I doing with pain? And think about the medical model. You come in and it's like, what is your pain level? I put you straight back in your prefrontal cortex and labor flow will stop. Right? And so things to guard and protect. And that's also where the partner comes in. How can you buffer that? What language do I speak to my client or to the mother, right? Like if she's like, oh, that was painful, you could just reword. It's like, yeah, that was hard work, that was intense, but that one is over. Or contractions are waves. That contractions can be like felt like, oh, something to hold on, instead of expanding to open up. And that cracking open, you really break open. And then you have to kind of, why? Because you have a new baby that you take and bond. And then you heal slowly again, right? And you have to take that time.
And it makes me think of how all of these little moments in this transitional period all prepare you for the next, which I really like what Claire said in that as well, that this idea of, what you're experiencing in your pregnancy, there's things that can be challenging there, but they're preparing you to be able to sit with that discomfort and let it shape you and strengthen you, so that then you can go into the birth space. And the birth space, there's going to be things that are challenging and uncomfortable, but you're going to surrender to them and you're going to ride them through, and it's going to shape you and strengthen you and empower you to then step into this early transition period with your baby. And then there's going to be challenges there that are going to be hard and uncomfortable, but that's going to prepare you then for the next chapter. It makes me think, like, what kind of damage could we be doing when we sever or cut off or block those moments? And there's so many of them, right? So I think it's not to in place this fear that, if you don't get the birth that you wanted, now you're screwed for the rest that comes after, because there's going to be so many more moments to still find that strength and empowerment, right? But we really try to catch women in all those little moments and take that experience from her, to quiet it, to get in the way, to medicate it, to numb it, to push it to the side.
And again, it goes back to what we're saying, like, right, you birthed the baby. And I've seen beautiful transitioning of, like, a client of mine, a dear friend of mine too. She was like, well, my first baby, was the doctor who was delivering, and I'm so grateful for him. And then she did more work, and all of a sudden she changed her language. She's like, well, I want to birth my baby. And I'm like, oh,
you're like, there it is.
She changed it. You know, she really take that ownership and responsibility, because end of the day, what you were saying, it prepares you for the next level. You have an older daughter, and you get constantly like challenged and like, okay, what am I doing? What is my intuition saying? It actually connects you with that intuition. And it's really important, because that's actually what pregnancy and birth is. It really prepares you for motherhood, and intuition is the best compass to have. To use, of course, gather your information, facts, etc., or evidence-based birth, but also at the end of the day, you really have to feel, what is my intuition saying? And knowing, is it my intuition, my healthy voice that is in there, or is it the chatter that came from the outside? Like, I've heard that can happen. Is it from fear? And that's something, is it from within or is it from outside? And that's what you have to do in the work, to really digging deep and see where you stand, and where's your core, that innate trust to life.
Do you feel that in your experience when you're sitting prenatally with these women, do you think, are most women in tune with their inner intuition? Is it a greatly lacking skill? is it kind of split in the middle?
It depends. I would say I'm so privileged because I work with a lot of home birthers and birth center.
Mm-hmm.
So those women want to be in charge. They want to own that birth. They are seeking for knowledge and wisdom. They somewhere know there's something that we would not be here.
Yeah.
Right. And then sometimes there is that chatter still here. And I ask that and see would they have to work through it and do their homework for that. Others I would say not to be, how do you say that? Not to ostracize mothers who want to give birth in a hospital, but sometimes there's a feeling like, well, I don't know if my body can do it. I don't know. I think I trust my doctor.
Yep, they hand their trust over.
Right. They hand it over. And so for them, but I want to have, if it works, I want to have an unmedicated birth, but I'm open. I don't want to be disappointed in case I have to. And so, I then ask, well, still educate yourself. And if you feel like you want to have unmedicated birth, like have certain things in place and do birth plan and have this conversation with your care provider. Because if you come in and they exactly what they were saying, what is your pain level? You want to have an epidural. What do you think it does? It's right here. And you're in the moment and it pulls you back in the prefrontal cortex. You're not in that flow. And they did actually a study about the flow state. If a mother is in that flow state, in that limbic part of the brain, she knows how to move intuitively. And moves and wiggles the baby through the pelvis. And they did a study where when you leave the mom in that flow state and you just give that encouragement, you're doing excellent, you're amazing, just affirmation, like that, feeding that confidence, let guard any distraction, like that you have no distractions. They come out and if you ask, was it painful? They cannot recall it as painful. Yeah.
That's me. No, that is me. Like, I told Jordan, I was like, it's crazy because I don't remember pain a single time. There was not, I remember peak intensity. Like, I remember a certain point before I got in the tub where I was like, man, these are just coming really on top of each other. And I'm not really getting that like kind of break in between that I need to be able to kind of reset my energy and focus. And like, that's getting kind of like frustrating because I'm feeling like I'm almost like not losing control, but like it's shifting all of a sudden. Now I'm kind of having to reapproach my, breath work with this or whatever. But I truly had a pain-free birth. Pain-free.
Right. And they will call it was a lot of sensation. I don't know if you feel the same. There was a lot of sensation, but you will not call it as pain.
Yeah.
And so then they did the other study where when you ask someone in that flow state and you ask, honey, it's so painful, isn't it? Is it painful? It pulls them on. There's like, oh, hell, give me a nap. I cannot do this. Is so painful. Oh my God. That's exactly why, because we pulled them up. And that's why we have to be so careful who we choose in our birth space and have the partner prepared for that too, because I know they care. And, oftentimes husbands want to fix, oh my God, she's making big sounds. And to know, hey, that's a good thing. If a mother is like doing this and rocking and moaning, that tells you she's coping. She found the rhythm. That's excellent. Not like, oh my God, I need to.
Like something's wrong, I need to fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I really think that's the key. You've seen so many home birth. I've seen so many physiological birth, and it's because that was so protected. And that's, again, back to the midwife model. They understand that way more than in a hospital setting. They don't understand the nervous system, the thing with the limbic part of the brain. They have to chart, and we have to have grace with them. We cannot be mad at them because that's how they're trained.
They need to products of the system that they were trained.
So they have to ask all those questions. What are you allergic to? When all those
like throwing
intake
all those
forms.
Intake questions when you're like in transition.
Right.
So what can a doula do for dads?
So I always say we don't replace that. We're part of the team. And so in my prenatals, I'm really making sure that I want whoever wants to be at that birth needs to be there. If it's the mother-in-law, if it's hopefully the partner, yes, we want to be there. And so I give them like some tools, the comfort measures. But the most important part is like what I was just talking about, that flow state to protect and guard. And if it's in a hospital setting, that the partner, the husband is the one who kind of like, okay, you guys can wait. She has a contraction right now. Not yet. I fill out the forms, dim the light, just really protect that safety part. Because if you don't feel safe, what do you think? Your body will open up?
Yeah.
No. So that's really the partner, and they feel like, oh, really empowered. Oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Of course I can do
Men
this.
like to feel, like they have a role and a responsibility, and it's laid out exactly how they
do
fulfill it. Yeah.
And they do. Yeah. They're really important. And you see also what you were asking, like, the transitioning for them too. They feel they were a part. They were not just like, oh, I don't want my husband down there. I don't want him to see what's going on. Like sometimes you hear that. But you know what? I've seen and I've heard from partners and from the mothers, they say like, my husband sees me differently after birth. Like that respect that I like, he thinks like I can do really hard things. And the opposite, like they come to me, is like, my wife is just badass.
Yes.
She just gave birth to such a human being beautifully to our daughter. Or so they come all out empowered. And it's so important that we see that journey that it's made together.
Yep. I have two things come to thought. I'm like smiling along with you because it's funny. That was my like husband's main things that he had to share after like our home birth experience was like, man, she's like a badass. And then my sister-in-law and my husband's brother, so my brother-in-law, they just had their baby, my nephew, on the 14th. And they FaceTimed us, and I asked my brother-in-law, I was like, so what did you think about it? And he was like, man, she was badass. Like she handled that like amazingly, was all he had to say about it. And it's cool because it's exactly what you're saying, that the men get this new perspective of
witness it.
Yeah, firsthand, like in the front row seats to witness their wives doing something that society has convinced us is unfathomable, to be able to have this unmedicated strength. But then I'm also thinking on the flip side of that, I think that there is such beauty in the man being the protector and the guardian of his wife and his child, that nobody's allowed to come into this bubble, and I am here to keep them safe. Because not only does that give the man the confidence, but it also gives the woman the security to know that like we are a unit.
I can lean on you. And this baby is going to be brought into that energy. Is such a powerful way to start off a new family or even a growing family. This is, none of this applies to a first-time mom only. Correct.
That it's such a beautiful thing. And in today's world, like I think of the first birth I attended was a hospital birth as a doula. It was beautiful. I mean, she did hypnobirth stuff, and you literally wouldn't even know that if she wasn't hooked up to the monitor, you would have no idea she was contracting. Like a contraction would come and she would literally do this. Amazing. And then she would open her eyes, and I was like, okay, well, that's not what I thought this was going to look like at all. Did that the entire time. But her husband was sitting in the little chair next to her on his phone, scrolling, changed the channel on the TV, and he just did this the whole time. And I remember watching it and just being like, man, that doesn't feel right, because this is such an opportunity for both of them, because dads are also stepping into the role of father.
Absolutely. They birth themselves too.
Yes.
I say it's you birth your family as well. It's not only birthing the baby.
Yeah.
That's what we're so single focused.
Yes.
Versus like, hey, it's a whole change.
Yes.
The constellation will change. You had one, and now you have two. The whole constellation changes. Everyone has to adapt.
Yeah.
And that's another thing with having siblings there.
Yeah.
When your daughter saw how her sister was born, that's normal. Mama makes strong sounds. Oh, mama is strong.
Yep.
I mean, I had another friend was similar at the same time giving birth as you, remember?
Yep.
And she was asking her son, do you want to be at birth? And he has a lot of energy. And she's like, I'm not sure. And she asked, and he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, but mama will do a lot of maybe sounds. Mama has to work hard. Like, pushing. And then she was looking for like schools or like, I don't know, remember, but another mom was asking, so when are you due anytime soon? And then the son would jump in. It's like, yeah, she will do like hard work. And he was amazing. He was in the water.
Wasn't
with
he in
her.
the tub?
Yes. And he's like, oh, baby's coming. I mean, just so beautiful. So it was already giving to the next generation to change the birth on earth, right?
Yeah,
Or like, oh, it's called.
I love that you bring up kids, you know, and like older siblings, because so my sister-in-law, I had my daughter, you know, with a previous partner. She was a C-section for breech, and then I got married to my current husband. There were no other, you know, his brother had middle schoolers, like at that point. They were born in the hospital, whatever. But as his sister was getting ready to have a baby, we went on a hike. Like, I'll never forget this moment. We went on a hike and I asked her, I was like, you know, Katie, have you thought about your birth plan at all? And she was like, no, I mean, like, probably like go to the hospital, you know? And I was like, well, you know, what if that's not the only option? And I just like told her everything. We finished the hike. She got in the car, called my brother-in-law, her husband, and was like, hey, babe, we're having a home birth. And he was like, what? And she's like, just trust me. And they did. She had an amazing home birth, and then had my nephew. And I remember when he was born, I was, you know, there as like a doula. And then I did their postpartum as like a birth assistant 24 hours later. I just remember looking at him and thinking like, everything just changed for our family, because now we've had a baby born at home, and that is now normal for their family, for my family, for his grandparents, for his great grandparents. Like, we have now showed them that this is possible and that it's beautiful. And look at this baby that was a product of this. Like, how can you deny this? My sister-in-law had a beautiful birth and a great experience. And I was like, he is going to grow up and get married someday and go, honey, like, have you considered a home birth? And I'm like,
so
we literally have just created this chain reaction in our family now, you know? So then my sister then went on to have my niece at home just a few weeks after I had my baby at home. And then now my other sister-in-law just had her baby at home. And I'm like, now all of our babies are born at home, and that is now normal in all of our in all of our family units, but also in our family collectively. And it's more likely that now even my daughter was born by C-section and my two niece and nephew were born in the hospital. It's more likely that they will then even go on to choose natural physiological birth for their babies. And I'm like, what a ripple effect. And it's exactly what you're saying. This is how we change birth. Is it's not, and this is not to get caught up in the weeds of like that stupid freaking thing of, oh, you want a trophy because you had an unmedicated birth. Nobody's asking for trophies. What we're doing here is gifting. I don't even like the word gifting. We are removing the bag over our heads as women, and we are showing them the way back to their intuition, back to this idea that your body is beautifully made, beautifully designed,
and prepares you for motherhood. At the end of that, like, really allows you to transition.
Exactly.
I think it is birth is hard work.
Yep.
But it like you, that uncomfortable thing that you were saying with that beautiful quote, absolutely
shapes you, and it brings you into a better motherhood, a better fatherhood, a better family unit. Our babies are going to benefit from that. Like, it's truly, we are such a sick nation and a sick culture. And I so believe that if our entry into the sick world could be
peace on earth begins with birth.
Exactly. If it could be this peaceful experience, I mean, there's not even words to fully like say it, but what you're saying, it's the peace on earth. Like, if we can start honoring that transition for these new lives to come in.
Right. And also for the mom to transition, the dad to transition,
all
the
of
siblings.
It.
And then also we could go on with babies when they come out of the world. Like, we've seen it, like home birth, you have your baby and you allow the baby to transition. It doesn't have to take the breath within 5 seconds.
You don't need to be smacking it, rubbing it with towels. And
think about it. The skin
the sensory,
exposes the first time, exposed to air. And then you rub them. Sometimes that's what I feel like as a doula, if you do only hospital birth, like the secondary trauma to
Yes.
witness and see, and how much can you step in and say something. It's
Yep.
not, that's
Yep.
the birth space that you chose.
Mhm.
You can be informed, making birth plans and have that conversation, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a system that they are trained to do certain things, and we have to have grace for them because that's what it is.
Yeah.
But like
Yep.
you were just saying, you are not, how you call that? You're not, you can make decisions.
You're not a victim.
Yeah,
to...
you're not like, there are options.
Mhm.
Gather your information. Like if you don't know your options, you don't have any.
Yeah.
And so knowing, hey, there's an option to have a home birth, maybe just look into it. Oh Maya, but I've heard like this, and well, then look into birth center birth. But where does it come from? Or just understanding the physiology, that
Mhm.
your body is not it's not broken, first of all.
Yep.
And
Yep.
your pelvis, if you don't mind if I
do
bring
it.
that.
Love it.
The pelvis is not a fixed entity. As you can see, the pelvis can actually move and create more space. It can change the
Mhm.
shape inside. So if you do like circling like this on a ball,
Mhm.
you don't necessarily change the shape that the baby has to spiraling through it and navigates through it. But all the ligaments around will loosen up. You see, there's bones, there's joints. It can move,
Mhm.
right? And so that's something that the medical system doesn't respect, the biomechanics. And that's where a doula can come in and be
Mhm.
educated. And, what kind of movements can I do in prenatally, right? Like having some repertoires of movements, and that's what Body Ready method really has
Yep.
taught
Yep.
me to like understand. And if you have done that, then it's not like, oh, what exercise, or what shall I do now? The baby, I'm in labor, because
Mhm.
then you will be right here.
Yep.
But because you have already done certain movements, you have that repertoire,
Mhm.
and your body will intuitively know what feels right.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. It makes me think as well, like when you're taking, like in the hospital, this is the position that women are giving birth, right? And look at like this space here, like the coccyx and the sacrum. Like if you're putting this pressure on here, this can't open at all. And I believe, I'm rusty on some of this stuff, but I think it's 4 centimeters, right? That this can actually open.
That I don't know, but think about, if you don't mind. So the only thing they get right in a lithotomy position when you're on the back, so semi-reclined, is they want you to have, they want to bring your legs really high up here, right? So what it does, that the iliac, those parts goes up, so it does create more space on the bottom, front to back. However, there's the bed. And that gives a restriction for that sacrum to move out of its way. And so what you put more tension on the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor's purpose during pregnancy or during birth is to yield and opening up, not Kegels, as we were told, like holding up. When we see women who have a strong Kegel, they can hold on for a long time until they actually allow that muscle to relax. So it does
open
it
to get out of the way, right?
Yeah, it does open a little bit up, but it doesn't allow that to free. And so then you feel like sometimes you hear that injury of the tailbone, or you hear, well, 2nd degree tear is just normal, and it is not, right? So having that, and you go against gravity. Think about, the baby has to go almost up here to come through it. Whereas when you're on the side, first of all, you have that freedom to move. You can still pull one leg up and have that sacrum to move out of its way. And it's gravity neutral. And then when you're on all fours, on the other hand, then you actually allow that curve that the baby has to navigate through it. You go with gravity. And then again, when they're on the back, and that lithotomy position, they want that external rotation, legs out. Look at those 2 bony parts here. It's the sit bones. So they go closer together. So you narrow it. Yes, you open a little bit this way, but you narrow it. So there's a lot of like just adding force. And so another thing that I would like to explain is, if you're up to it. So the medical model, when interventions comes into place, it doesn't have to, right? But if they, let's say you have a mom who feels everything, the baby's high up in the pelvis, if you can show what that means.
Mm-hmm.
With the baby's above the inlet, above the pubic bone here,
Mhm.
right? So the baby has a hard time to drop into the pelvis
Mm-hmm.
and might feel everything, if that's the pelvis, if that is the pelvis. The baby has a hard time to navigate. And the mother explains, like, oh, I feel everything on my pubic bone or everything in my back.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the medical model solution for that? They will say, let's give some Pitocin force, adding force to it. They don't look into it and say, hey, maybe we can create more space or
Right.
balance. That's
Right.
what body ready method comes with, the FBS. F stands for flow, being in that intuitive movements, because then you know what to do. Then B for balance, balancing your body out, maybe certain movements, and then also create more space. So what could you do if you show on the pelvis, if you tuck the
If you're
sacrum
doing
under,
like
so the sacrum, take the sacrum and tilt it like a scared dog, then you see how you create more space front to back. So you can tilt it like this so they see it front to back at the top. So then the baby can come through it. So the physiological model says, let's create more space. And all of a sudden the baby can move through it because there's
they can
more
drop
space.
lower.
That's where movement comes in, understanding the physiology.
Yeah.
Where the hospital settings, like, well, we just add force. We just
how
add
can we
more
medically?
Pitocin. Yeah. And eventually maybe the baby gets distressed and then we have to put in a internal heart monitoring, and then we have to, or the mother feels like, oh my God, that is unbearable. Because yes, you're right here. You have no autonomy. It's hard to be connected to intuition if you don't have autonomy. Right. That's another thing. If you feel like you have to give up your autonomy, it's really hard to be in your intuition and knowing how to move and allow to wiggle the baby through it.
And unfortunately, in the medical model, you are kind of on a conveyor belt and they have to move people through faster, and they don't have the patience or the time when, hospital rooms are money, that if you're holding on to your autonomy, they can't move you along quite as well. It's one of the first things you have to hand over often, in these models, unfortunately. But I love what you're saying about this idea of this space and movement. And when you're showing these positions, being on all fours, being in a side lying, for both of us as people who have attended many births, intuitively, those are the positions most women go to when they're in the pushing phase and baby is getting
squatting,
ready.
right?
Yep.
And there's you don't know yet when you are in pregnancy. You just allow yourself, you walk into it. You didn't probably know how you will birth your daughter.
No, and I was very much so asking you. I was like, okay, wait, so like the inlet and the outlet and which positions will open this part, which ones do that. So then I was almost trying to make this mental checklist for myself where I was like, okay, at this stage in labor, I'm going to do these positions. And at this stage in labor, I'll make sure I'll do these positions. And it's so silly because not once was I thinking that way. I just like my body just let me know, like, hey, you're going to go lunge on the stairs. Now you're going to like sideline here, and now we're gonna go pillows. And then when I was in the tub, it was hands and knees. And
because you did preparation,
you
had that repertoire. You didn't have to dig into it and say, oh, what shall I do, right? And all of a sudden it was just intuitively knowing.
And even the body awareness as well, because you and I are both athletes, right? That we have natural body intuition and awareness. That's not a well known skill for many people. That I love what you're saying, that I think it's important that there is implementation of those things prenatally, because you have to also kind of create that mind body connection of like, when I go into this position, I feel this in my pelvis and I feel this in my body and I notice this. And it allows you to then have that kind of arsenal to pull from when you are in labor, and you don't have to come to that prefrontal space. It's there in your body and your brain connection to know like, okay, I think my body needs to go into this position because I know what it feels like from previous work, right?
And I think one component that we didn't touch on that is very important with that is like to surrender.
Like, I love the word surrender.
Surrendering, allowing your body to open up. And that's also that flow state. You allow that pressure to come. You allow that intensity to come. You lean into it. Sometimes you see when someone has a little bit more of a challenge, they're like up-regulating, they're clenching, they're holding up. They don't want to sit like this. They want to get up like that,
Trying to run from it.
And lean into it, allowing that. And that's preparation you can do. Like, and again, it starts maybe with the language.
Yeah.
You know, intensity will bring the baby down. I am strong. I can do anything for 60 seconds. It's temporary. I move my baby through my pelvis. Another thing I always think, like, what gets the baby in gets the baby out. The spiral movements, right? Think about when you conceive, it's usually spiraling movements, and it's the same hormonal cocktail that has to be present. Again, you don't want to have sex and your mom comes in and turns on the light. What do you think that happens to your husband? He's like, oh, we're done. I don't feel like I want to keep going. You would cover yourself. You're not in a mood to get an orgasm. That's exactly how we treat birth in a hospital sometimes, and that's where the partner really can guard and protect his wife.
And that space.
Partner.
Amazing. Okay, so I have one like last question for you. How do you think the way that we treat birthing women in modern society, what does that kind of imply our values are as a society?
That's a good question. So I do feel the way we see women in birth now needs a lot of work. We need definitely a lot of like education, because the way we see women is like, we're broken. We cannot birth. We're not capable. Our body is broken. Our pelvis is too small. We're unhealthy. There's so many stigma that comes with it that is not
incapable.
And no, actually we are not. And we have to really work our way back to that ownership, that we know how to give birth. We can do it. There's an innate trust. There's a biological intelligence. You don't have to think every day when you have a baby growing inside, oh my God, now take a deep breath. And so now we create 10 fingers. Okay, take another one.
Now I made toenails.
Right. And so really working on that faith, that innate trust, and see what chatterbox are around and label them and then smother them. Then they have no space. Sometimes you get those unsolicited advices. Oh my God, you're pregnant. Oh my God, you're so brave to have a home birth. Or not even if it's a home birth, any birth. Like, oh my God, I screamed for epidural, and you don't have to have a trophy, right? Things like that we've heard many, many times. And you're like, it's not about that. But I prepare my body, and then now I can do it. You have that confidence level that needs to be built up. So there's what I've learned from Body Ready Method. It's so interesting as well. And it goes with that flow state, that confidence part. So the confidence, what is it called? The challenge skill ratio. Have you ever heard about that? So when your perception of challenge is 4% higher than your perceived skill level, then you're in that flow state. A little bit of a challenge,
but you know that you can
get that joy. You can do it. If that perceived challenge is way higher than your perceived skill level, then you feel no confidence, lack of I cannot do it. I don't know. I'm on. That's where education comes in too, right? And inner work, and how can you build that? If your challenge or perceived challenge is lower than 4%, you're almost like overconfident. You are open for distractions. It's hard to be in that flow state, right? So we want to get in that 4%. That's when we know we do the best. Like maybe you're a good storyteller, and at one point you feel like you're just in the flow, and then if you get interrupted, you're not getting into it. But everyone has experienced that flow state, right? You know what it feels when it just flows and you lose sense of time. That's birth. Welcome. Right? And that's where we want to be. And I think we really have to work and build that beautiful foundation with education, with inner work, and communication with partner, etc., that whatever comes up on the surface, that it's strong. Because in birth, a lot of things will come up that you might not be prepared. And it's okay. But really doing some inner work is helpful.
Okay. So you think that society is viewing us almost as this like walking vessel that needs to be medically managed, so that we could not possibly be left to our own vices to birth our own babies?
Unfortunately, society has really done a good job that we think we're broken. But I do see movements, and You see the same. I feel like I'm so surrounded by strong women. Like for me as a doula to witness every time that strength of a mother giving birth, I mean that gives me the oxytocin, the love hormone as well. I come out
the high.
empowered as well. Like we were so strong. Families too. Not, and I don't want to say like women are stronger than men at all. We're just different. Right, but that's our job. Giving birth, that's what the womb that we, the portal that we carry, and really empower that. And we have to nourish that and share our stories too. I remember when I was giving birth, I almost felt like felt so empowered. Like you were saying, I didn't feel like pain. I felt a lot of sensation, but I almost felt like I cannot share that with others who had traumatic births. You know, and at the same time, it's important that we share those stories. It is possible, and that's what we should strive for, not for, oh my God, something is wrong. Think about it. You're leaning into something that something will go wrong versus.
And there's a ripple effect. I strongly believe there's such a ripple effect. I've been seeing it a lot in my own social groups, you know, where one person is brave enough to go, you know what, I actually would like to unsubscribe from that medical model. And I think I'm going to put all the trust into myself and my body and my baby. I'm going to give birth at home. And then they do, and it goes great. And then they tell their best friend, and then their best friend's like, I kind of want to do that. And then they do it and it goes great. And then they tell their sister, and then their sister, you know, there's been such a huge ripple effect in my own personal social circles. And it's exactly what you said. Like, I think it's important that we speak on it. We have to share our stories and not be afraid that somebody's going to quiet you because it's not fair to share because somebody else didn't have a good experience, you know?
And every story has its base and valid. And, you know, it's not someone cannot speak when they had not a good experience, and they need to work through this as well. And they need like maybe a postpartum doula. They need support and not being shamed that their body was broken or you didn't do anything right. And what you were mentioning earlier, like sometimes you have a first birth that might not be as good. And I can speak from my mom's birth. When she was giving birth to my sister, it was very traumatic and it was really managed, and my sister was half paralyzed because they were pushing the elbows in. And that's in Switzerland, right? And there were midwives in a hospital, and she was very traumatized. My dad would say my mom was never the same after that. But then my mom was saying my brother was easy. She went into the hospital very late, and with me so late that they didn't make the doctor didn't make it. But she said, I healed from the second birth. So I also want to encourage women when they had a traumatic birth, you can heal from another physiological, or just even having that support, like wherever you want to give birth. If you feel safer in a hospital, you know, if that's the safety part for you, by all means, then you go in a hospital. If you feel like I feel safer at home, again with the autonomy, for me that was this, then go where you feel safe, and that's where you can heal. And you know, like it doesn't mean like what happens that
your story doesn't have to end there.
Right.
You know, a thought that's been on my mind a lot while we've been talking about all these things, and this may sound really silly or simple, but for some reason it's a statement, you know, that just like lives rent free in your head forever. Did you ever do Karen Strange's NRP? You have? Okay. When I did my very first NRP, which is neonatal resuscitation, it's a medical course that we're required to take, you know, myself and you as medical assistants.
In community births.
In community birth settings, but so there is a teacher, her name's Karen Strange, and she does a fantastic job in her delivery. She's very like community focused. Because also you don't have to be community birth to have NRP, right? You also get it in the hospital setting, but those instructors are different than like somebody who focused specifically on community practice. They're different beasts, right? She said something when we were talking about resuscitation, meaning if a baby were born and they needed help to breathe, that's what resuscitation is for people who don't know these terms we're throwing around. She said, if babies needed a mask and a blanket and a towel and a firm board and a whatever, if they needed that to be able to come to and make that transition in birth, don't you think that we would have evolved as a species and gotten to a point that babies would be born holding a bag with all the supplies that they needed for this resuscitation? Because nature doesn't mess up. Like, nature knows what it's doing. And I loved just her, like, almost like crass humor about it, because I was like, man, I mean, that's so true. Like, we've evolved in so many ways, you know, and that can seem undeniable. But then to think that all of a sudden, you know, we need to be vigorously stimulating a baby, like, don't you think babies would have then kind of evolved over time to have the things that they need in place to make that transition on their own, you know? I just thought it was such a great way of framing it, you know?
She's wonderful. I remember she was saying the body is designed to come to the world, that the baby is designed to come to the world even if no one makes it.
Yes.
And that, I mean, as a doula, it happened that
Oh,
babies
yeah.
come so quick,
Yep.
and the midwives are on a speaker.
You and I have been at births like this together.
right.
Like, this
You
baby's
know,
coming.
But then that's baby never misses their birthday. They
Yep.
come to the right timing. You can have seeds planted in the same environment and with the same, like the sun goes down at the same
Yep.
time, the same soil, and they don't pop at the same time. You know, so each has its own time when it's right. I think that's so important to understand. And so Corinne Strange really says it so beautifully. Not that I'm for free birth at all.
Yeah, right.
I want to make that clear. But if we are not broken, nature has designed us that in case no one makes it, there's a really good chance that everything goes well.
Yep.
If we allow the mom, everyone be in that flow set, in that labor land that we always so call. And so maybe talking about nature, how important that is. I don't know if you ever heard about the Zach Bush. He's a MD, and he elaborates it so beautifully, because when I witness birth as a doula, I mean, it's truly a witness of the strength of a mother of the family, and I get that oxytocin flow as well. And so Zach Bush explains it that human beings have that ability to witness nature, right? It could be our greatest wound, or it could be our greatest potential, but we can witness a sunset and be mesmerized and think, oh, we are separated from nature, right? We witness it, but we can be grateful for this. A monkey or a bird knows he's part of nature, and we forget that sometimes, that we are part of nature, right? And so monkeys and birds, they see the sunset every night, and they don't think like, oh, I need to look at stare at it. Oh my god. But again, what he says so beautifully, it's our greatest wound, because we think we're not part of nature, we're separately. But it also our greatest potential of being grateful for what we can actually witness.
Yeah, that there's so much that we can learn from nature as well, right?
And that we are nature.
And that we are, that we're a part of it. Yeah, which it sounds almost simple, but it really is. I don't know. You don't think these things every day when we're living in our little cement boxes, driving our little, tin cars around. Like, you forget that we are a part of that same design.
And then they're like, oh, see, did you see that sunset? Think about it.
Yeah, I know it is. It's very true. I love that. Monkeys don't. They don't look at the sunset. And well, let's wrap us up here. If somebody is listening to this episode and they're like, dang, I kind of want to explore this a little bit. I'm intrigued, whether it's planning for first baby, second, third, fourth. I think they've gotten that point that this isn't a first time mom conversation by any means. What are some resources that you would recommend that, they could go look up right now, whether it's books, podcasts, websites, influencers, whatever it is? Do you have some favorites?
Yes. So I really like the Down to Birth podcast. I love Barbara Harper. She was the founder of What a Birth. Sometimes when I drive to a birth, I listen to one of the episodes that she was playing on Down to Birth. It was the episode 200. And she just talks about the physiological part of the third stage, where the placenta has to be born, and how we forget. And when the baby comes out, that the babies are mind readers. You don't have to speak to them, but she always says in her head, you made it.
Oh,
it was just so beautiful. And then it really puts me in that beautiful, also down-regulated nervous system, as we were talking about that. So Down to Birth is a really good one. I like Hihi. What is
Tranquility. Isn't it
Tranquility, yeah.
something tranquility.
Birth Lounge. I think that's what it's called, Birth Lounge.
Okay, yeah.
And
I think it's Tranquility with he. I think is her
That-
Instagram name.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And then also Dr. Stu Fishbein, I like
Yeah.
Birthing Instincts.
Birthing Instincts, yeah. Is a
With
podcast.
Bliss, it's a podcast.
Mhm.
And then books, really, Ina May. I mean, just listening or reading stories of birth what was her C-section rate? I mean, she's such a
Oh,
guru.
it's so low.
Like 3% of
I was going to say, I think it's 3%. Yeah.
Just hearing those birth stories and you see the similarities and still differences.
Mhm.
Like everyone had a different story, but
Yep.
still it's like, oh yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes how early labor, I think early labor can be sometimes such a challenge, right?
Uh-huh.
It can be from a couple hours to it's the longest
Days.
like days,
Yeah.
and your mindset is really important.
Mhm.
Doing childbirth classes, I would avoid hospital birth child classes because it's more focused what they do. Maybe go when you do a hospital birth, but
Yeah.
also do maybe another childbirth classes. There are so many everywhere. Just it can be hypnobirthing, just I would say be careful that you don't feel like you need to be hypnotized.
Mhm.
Only let's say if there's trauma informed, sometimes that's what you want to be detached with your body, but we actually want to be in the body.
Mhm.
And you were saying with your first birth that you witness, like it could be no sound, but it could be that you roll your baby out, and there's nothing wrong either way, just how you birth your baby.
Yeah. I will say I hear too often that the hospital childbirth education classes are more teaching you how to be a good patient than they are necessarily empowering you for how to like navigate that space.
Right.
And that's not to say that they're all that way, but I am just putting that out there. You know, if you're a first time mom and you're like, well, you know, I want to go unmedicated, but hospital's where I feel best right now, you know, and thinking that that's going to be a solid resource. I just wouldn't want a mom to get caught up in that and, you know, I don't get kind of pushed into that corner.
And then I would Body Ready Method has really like they are trained. I'm certified in Body Ready Method. It allows you to prepare your body and mind, create that range of motion, knowing what comfort measures you could do, or just like exercises in pregnancy. I think that's a really good resource.
Does Body Ready Method have a place where you can search like
Yes,
people in your area directory?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do have a directory. It's worldwide now.
Amazing.
I'm just finishing up to make a class. Now I can do 101 for years, but now I'm finishing up to actually being able to have a big class and teach that. What else would I say? It's endless. Like the birthing from within really allows you to dig in for inner work when you feel like, well, I'm afraid of pain, and versus like, where does that come from? Like, you know, what is suffer versus pain? And so you can do some exercises. It's also a lot with art. I think you have it out here. And the Ina May to Childbirth. It's a wonderful
this is
book.
the Guide to Childbirth.
Guide to Childbirth.
And I will say her books are really easy to read.
I love it.
Like her spiritual midwifery one, it looks big and I thought it'd take me a while. I think I read it in 2 days. It was just such an easy flip through read. They're awesome.
Yeah.
What about for partners? What if like dads are, you know, maybe feeling a little unsure and they need a little more information to feel confident in making these types of decisions?
I would encourage to going to childbirth classes
alongside
along with also even for like the prenatals, asking questions. Yeah, I mean, there's not so much out there in Instagram, like he with informed consent. What does it mean to do a birth plan, etc.? What questions to ask?
Yeah.
And also interview doulas. Like there's so many directories that you can go through. Donna, which is the oldest certification organization for doula. There's so many now here in town. We have UNLV and
so tell for anybody who's not local to our area or even is local, let's say if somebody's like, man, I need to have a doula at my next birth, how do they find a doula?
So there are different directories. Like I said, Donna has one. You can just put in your area code, and then it will pop up who is certified and what they're specified. There's some like doulas for postpartum. There's doulas for birth doulas, and then there's also NICU doulas. There's so many different areas of transitioning doulas, and I would really encourage to interview a few, because it's such an intimate place, and you want to make sure that energy works with yours, and also have your partner with you, because it's really important that the partner doesn't feel like, oh no, she has someone else in the room. And I always make that very, very clear that I'm not replacing.
Right.
We're one team, and you bring your skills and I bring my part. I think really encouraging you to do the stats are out that the birth outcome are better if you have a doula. We have not touched on that one, that we advocate for them, but we don't make decisions for them. So sometimes that's a fear that maybe a care provider says like, well, I don't want to have a doula who interferes with us. That should be a red flag to me. But we know our scope. And I want to say we're not licensed. Okay. We are certified. That gives us the freedom to have our own job description, and we can bring up and advocate for our clients. I'm hired by the family and not by the care provider. That's a very big one.
Definitely. And that also allows for a lot of individuality in doulas as well. And that's why I, like you say, interview them. Most doulas offer free consults, right?
In person
free consults. Some I know do like over the phone only. That's your own, thing to decide on. But I say you go to the Facebook groups, go to word of mouth, find friends who have had them before. Honestly, I get people on Instagram asking me, they're like, hey, I really like what you do, and I'm just wondering, do you have a doula recommendation? And then I'll send them, like my couple vetted doulas that I trust. Create your little list, and then, like you're saying, go and interview all of them, and then you pick the one that feels right to you. You want it to be a good connection, because it's a very intimate space to bring somebody into. And then
birth centers too, midwives, they're really open to it. I've been even asked from OBGYNs now, which is beautiful. They will ask, and like, do you have any cards or something? Cool. So it's more and more coming. And I do say, like, if the care provider is not for a doula, to you, that should be a red flag.
Yep, I completely agree. A total red flag. So then what about for yourself? What if somebody is local and they're like, Regina's really cool, I want to work with her. Where do we find you?
Well, I'm on a list of Serenity Birth Center. So if you ask for that list, you will get, or you can reach me under my website, reginaroy.com. So you can send me an inquiry. Instagram, I think it's Regina R. Roy. Regina R.Roy, and my business is Regina Roy LLC Calendula. So it's a play of word. Calendula is a flower, marigold, it's a medicinal plant, and doula. So we change it a little bit. Instead of a D-U-L, it's a doula, D-O-L.
Yep, D-O-U-L-A.
Yes. Correct. Yep. Yeah. So you can find me there. And if someone has my number, you can always shoot a text as well. It's better when you text me than calling, because I might be somewhere, and
she might be swimming in a she might be underwater,
or I'm at the birth,
or she's
something.
At a birth. Yeah,
you hear someone roaring behind it, so maybe you don't want that.
Yes. Yay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Regina, for bringing all of your wisdom and your perspective to this topic that I think is going to touch a lot of people, men and women, who are tuning into this episode. So
thank you so much.
Yay. If you feel at home here, leaving a 5-star review helps other families find their way too.
Come hang out with us on socials at Lone Wolf Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's next.
Remember, sometimes you have to stray from the pack to discover where you truly belong. Until next time, loners.